Good afternoon. Welcome to the Corning Museum of Glass and our hot glass demonstration. And welcome to those of you who are watching on Instagram. So we are live streaming this event. That's what some of the cameras are for, but you're here at the museum. Welcome. I'd like to introduce you to Helen Tegeler. What do you say we give her a nice big round of applause? Yeah, our featured gaffer for our programming called Bring the Heat. So this is a live demonstration, which is also live streamed, that we do here. We're doing every Thursday this month. So this is the third Bring the Heat that we're doing, and Helen's going to make a beautiful vase for you today. I'll go ahead and introduce the rest of the team. Assisting Helen today, we have Katie Hubbs. So let's give Katie a big round of applause, too. She'll be there helping out Helen. We have Declan McInerney. Give Declan a big round of applause. And who knows, somebody else might show up. I'm Catherine. I'll be narrating it. And if you have any thank you. If you have any questions here or online, let us know, because we do have something checking the chats. Here, all you have to do is shout it out, or throw up your hand, whatever you wanted to do. But if you pop in the comments, someone will relay the questions to myself or Helen. So Helen's gotten started. We have a good chunk of time, but she started a little early because sometimes picking up color is not too exciting. So what she had done is she picked up a little chunk of color, and she has this beautiful color called metallic blue. Look at these great shots. So we also have, I'll introduce some of our AV staff and some of our social media staff. So we've got Dan on the camera, we've got Connor doing the Instagram live. Of course, Emily will be doing some moderating and checking in the comments. The whole team is here with us today, so we're very excited. Helen picked up that color, that beautiful metallic blue. It's what you see inside the clear glass right now, which looks orange. It is not orange. It only looks orange because it's so hot. But it's a beautiful metallic blue, a transparent metallic blue. Then she gathered a few layers of clear glass on top of it. Well, we're using a soda lime glass. The three main ingredients to our soda lime glass are silica sand, soda ash, and limestone. So the silica we're talking about is mined right out of the Earth's crust, has a melting temperature of over 3,800 degrees Fahrenheit, so we have to add a flux to reduce the silica's melting temperature. In this soda lime glass, we add soda ash, reducing the melting temperature to about 1,800. Then we need a stabilizing ingredient. In the soda lime glass, it is limestone. So we call it soda lime glass. Windows, pickle jars, bottles. It's one of the more common glasses in the world. But the formula that we're using is unlike window glass and bottle glass in that it's meant to stay hot and soft for a long period of time. And it's very clear and colorless. So we buy a premium glass for glass blowing. Now here she's using, get this, a pad of paper. A pad of the local newspaper, folded up, soaked in water to shape that glass right in the palm of her hand. It's one of our favorite tools because it is soft and flexible, and really the only way to shape that glass with our hands. So this program is called Bring the Heat, and we are doing it in collaboration with our shops. How many of you are familiar with our shops? The shops here at the Corning Museum of Glass. Yeah, you probably walked through it before you got your admissions ticket. Saw a few things you might like to pick up. Our shops are online as well. So for those of you who are watching at home, don't worry. You don't have to walk through the shops. You can browse through the shops right from your desktop. So check out the shops, the Corning Museum of Glass. So you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Corning Museum Shops. So we're doing this piece in collaboration with the shops because this piece will be sold. You got it. We don't sell most of the things we make here at the museum. We do have our made line, which are the pieces on these lit cases. It's a curated collection of production line that we make 1 or 2 a day, and we do sell here in the shops. But most of our demo pieces are not sold. Charitable donation, promotion, but you can't buy most of the things. So this is pretty exciting to be able to watch this being made, and then possibly someone could take it home. Yeah. Pickles. So pickle jars, one of the great things about storing things in glass is that you can see what's inside. The glass doesn't leave any like flavor, or it doesn't impart anything. It doesn't, it's, unlike plastics, the glass is very clean relatively as far as storing things in it. But I could have said anything like pickle jars, spaghetti sauce jar, any kind of jar, canning jars, any kind of glass jar, yeah. Glass is one of the better materials to store things in, to reheat things in. So when we talk about Pyrex and like the glass you can heat up in the microwave or the oven. So it's just a really great material for storing items, but also using them for cooking as well. So she goes back into the heat. This is going to be the vessel. She's going to adorn this vessel with some beautiful flowers, some cherry blossoms. And Helen does a lot of work with this sort of technique where she lays out powders of glass on a kiln shelf and then heats it up so they fuse together in a very similar process, pot de verre, but this is kind of a quicker, more a faster technique, but just fusing those powders of glass to create little flowers. So in a moment, we can look over here on this graphite plate that she has warming up, and we can see the fused powders that she's formed into sort of cherry blossom petals and leaves. So here at the museum, our gaffers, normally we do, 13 shows a day in one shop. So we have multiple shops, but on average about 13 shows a day, and we usually make a traditional vessel in about 20, 25 minutes. But this is one of those demonstrations where the gaffers get to spend a little more time and make a nicer piece. Not that our demonstration pieces aren't nice, but this allows us to really explore and spend a little more time making something of our own design, because we are gaffers for the museum, but we also are artists and still work as artists after work. So, when we're not working, still working on our own work and trying to create different pieces as well. Yeah. So they're getting ready to flip this around. So Katie's making what's called a punty. The punty is just a little bit of glass on the end of a solid rod that will shape up to sort of a Q-tip shape. We want it to be the right shape and the right temperature. Helen's been working with glass for about 30 years. So she is going to make this look very easy when actually it's quite difficult. She went to art school at Bowling Green State University and then got her master's degree from Southern Illinois University and has worked as an independent artist and different shops and artists before coming to the museum. And now she is here at the Corning Museum of Glass full-time. So she stuck that punty right in the center of the foot. They'll run those two irons together, making sure everything stays lined up and centered. She'll create a little thermal stress on that constriction line, and with a light tap, it pops right off. But that blue, that metallic blue, it looks like it was still a little gooey on the inside. It was colder on the outside, so it broke nice and clean on the outside, but that little bit of blue on the inside was still a little soft and gooey. So I don't know if you saw her get in there with the shears and just cut that away. So now she'll begin working on the top of the vessel. So she's flipped it around onto that punty. She'll go into the heat. She'll flash the whole thing, the punty, the bottom of the piece. Then she'll back the glass out and she'll heat just the top or the opening. Now for those of you who follow us, you've heard us talk about the view inside this reheating oven quite a bit. But for those of you who are just seeing this for the first time, we have a camera that sits right behind our reheating oven. And it looks through a little window. A window of a special type of glass that was developed here in Corning in the 30s. It was developed by an organic chemist trying to develop a glass that was as close to quartz. So it's pure silica sand, and it's fused in such a way that there are very few impurities. It has a high melting temperature of over 3,800. And we use a little piece of it in the back of this oven to see what's going on inside. But one of its very first uses was when NASA came to Corning looking for a glass to use for the space shuttle's windshield. That's what Corning gave them. Now, because it's optically clear, when 3 scientists in Corning were working on optical fibers, they pulled out that fused silica once again. And that's what, that and another high purity glass are what's running through the core of optical fibers for fiber optics. It's what the laser light signals travel through. But one of the very important glasses that was developed here in Corning throughout the years. Watch this. She's going to use a set of shears to cut the glass like it was paper. Look at that shot. That's satisfying. Cutting through the glass is pretty easy. The tricky part is getting that glass hot, getting it back to the bench, getting in there and cutting all the way around before that glass becomes too cold. I don't know if you heard the glass hit the floor, but by the time that glass hits the floor, it's already hard and rigid. So she had to work fast. She had seconds to get in there and make that quick cut. And like I said, with 30 years of experience, makes this whole process look very, very easy. So it's quite deceiving watching a skilled glassmaker work. Yes, question? Yeah, why doesn't she wear a leather glove? She could. Sometimes it's a little more difficult to do something with a glove on, but certainly we do put on a leather glove at certain steps in the process. This piece is fairly small and the top is fairly thin, so just maybe even dipping your hand in a bucket of water before you make that cut will keep it cool enough so it wasn't terribly hot on her fingertips. Maybe if it was like a wide open bowl or a bigger bubble, then she might have asked for a heat shield. So in that case, where the glove would be more in the way than helpful, we could have someone hold, like Katie or Declan, hold a wooden board in between the glass and our fingertips. That way we still have the dexterity of our hands, but the shield from the heat. But yeah, sometimes we'll throw in a leather glove. But even that leather doesn't hold up. If it's that close to the glass, it'll start to smoke and shrivel. So there's no glove that can really withstand these temperatures either. Yeah? On average, about 6 or 7, but that's folded in thirds and then thirds again. So it's about as thick as a thick hot pad that you would use at home in the oven. This one's a little thicker. This one's probably about 10 sheets of paper, so it's a little on the thicker side. And it all depends. Different glass makers for different things some like to have a thin paper where they can actually squeeze the glass with their hands. Some people who work a little thicker like a thicker newspaper, and they don't want to, feel the heat through the glass, or they don't want to be able to squeeze the bubble. They just want it to be a nice shaping tool. So she's going to keep this punty warm with this fluffy torch, this propane torch, while she lets the bottom cool off. And she's going to have Katie jump in and help her out by taking quick reheats, or what we call flash heats. And then over here on this hot plate, she has those little cherry blossom flowers. So there's a nice shot of that. So this is fused powder. She fused them in a kiln. Actually, she's going to draw the branches first. So she saw her just pick up off the table some rods or canes of glass that she pulled in a beautiful assortment of brown colors. And she's going to use a high-powered torch that is very similar to the one you would find in a flame working demonstration or a flame working process. This torch runs around 3,000 to 4,000 degrees, and she'll heat up that rod in the torch. And she's going to use that rod or cane of glass to draw some branches on the side of this vessel. So she heats up the cane, and she's just going to draw along. It's got to heat it up first. You can see it's hard and rigid up where her hand is. And she's thrown on a leather glove for this because her hand is going to be above that glass for quite a while. So she did throw on a leather glove for this part. But she draws it on and then pulls it to a fine thread and then runs that fine thread through the torch, and it just kind of breaks free, melts free. So she'll heat up the rod as Katie takes the glass for a quick flash. We never stay out of the oven for too long. If you stay out of the oven for too long, the outside will cool faster than the inside, and it will build up stress in the glass. Stress in the glass will eventually lead to a crack or a break. So you're going to see them maintaining temperatures of over 1,000 degrees the whole time we're working. Say it one more time. Stay on the pipe. Yeah, so because the glass is so hot, how does it stay on the pipe? Because we have to keep it so hot. So we are only keeping it just as hot as we need to. So if we stayed in there for too long, the glass would become molten again. It would start to want to drip off the end of the pipe. Yeah. So you saw Katie went into the oven for maybe 5 seconds. So she's not staying in there for a really long time where that glass would become molten again and start to kind of drip off the pipe. So yeah, it's all about experience and timing and temperature and making sure that she doesn't overheat it so that it doesn't drip off the pipe. Yeah. Good question. Yes. No, none of them behave the same. Yeah, so the question was, do the different colors in glass, do they all behave the same or do they kind of react differently to the heat? They all kind of react a little different. Yep. So to make different colors in glass, we add different metal oxides, salts, and chlorides to the clear glass. Cobalt makes that beautiful dark cobalt blue. Iron makes green. Manganese makes purple. Gold chloride makes a ruby red. Cadmium, selenium, tin, titanium. And depending on how much of that metal oxide you are using, will sometimes affects the way it moves. So sometimes if you add like a lot of a dark color, that color could be softer, heat up quicker and become softer. If you use some opaque oranges or white or red, sometimes those can be a little stiffer. And so sometimes working with multiple colors can be tricky because when you're inflating a bubble and you have softer areas and stiffer areas, that can be problematic. So yeah, we do have to plan for that when we're working with the colors. Yeah, definitely. Yep. So as beginner glassmakers, we usually start off in clear. It's like the basic foundation. So when you're building your foundation, it's good to do it in clear because the clear, we can actually see the wall thickness. We can kind of be consistent with the way it's moving. But when you start adding color, that's kind of like learning to blow glass all over again because it's a whole nother feeling, yeah. Say it again? How many types of glasses are there? Hundreds of thousands. I have no idea. But I know Corning Incorporated, which is the company in town that has made glass for many years, they hold patents on hundreds of thousands of different recipes for glass. And still working on more today. So they're, inventing and developing new types of glass all the time. But yeah, there's many, many, many hundreds of thousands of different recipes for glass. So Helen's starting to add some of those cherry blossoms. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? These are like paper thin. They're very, very delicate, and she's just fusing them down to the wall of the vessel. So she's got them on this hot plate. So they are hot to the touch. She's picking them up with a very delicate pair of tweezers, very small pair of tweezers. She's heating it up slightly so that the surface becomes sticky. I don't know if you know this, but hot glass is sticky. We always think of glass as a cold, hard, sharp material. But here in the hot shop, it is very soft and gooey and sometimes sticky, yeah. Yeah, in the back? Do we ever let interns come in as a helper? Yes. Declan is our summer intern. Declan is in college right now at the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, and they are our intern for the summer. So Declan is here helping us out for the demonstration, doing demonstrations throughout the summer with us here, learning a lot. But yeah, Declan is our intern for the summer. So yes, we do have interns and students come help us. They usually have to have glass experience. Yeah, so a little bit of glass experience. Because a lot of our process is doing demonstrations. So we like our interns to have a little bit of a glass blowing experience, yeah. Yeah, a lot of our summer staff have either just graduated from college or are in college now. So they're all here with us for the summer doing demonstrations and blowing glass every day. So they'll go back to school with better hand skills, hopefully, and a little more experience, which is really important when you're working with glass because it takes years to become comfortable working with the material. And so the more you can get in a shop and blow glass and make glass, the better you get. It's like practicing a sport or an instrument. The more you do it, the more you practice, hopefully the better you get. Yeah? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, so the flowers were pre-made. She took powders of glass and kind of sprinkled it on a kiln shelf. So a shelf that you would be able to put into a kiln. And then used maybe like a paintbrush or something to push the powder into sort of that petal form and built it up in layers. So she's got white and pink and some lines. And then she turned it on in a kiln to sort of a fusing temperature, which was maybe 1300 or so that they just fuse together. And then there's a little bit of resist on the shelf, so then it just will slide off the shelf and she can pick up that little piece of glass powder and use it on the vessel, yeah. Yeah. To make the details on the glass? What material do we use to make the details on the glass? So we're using all glass. So it comes in different forms, though. So some of the materials we use are powders, which is a powder form of glass. So they take the glass color and grind it into a powder, and then we can sift it on, or we can use it to make these delicate little flowers. Then we have a material called frit. Still that same glass, but in a chunk or a piece of glass. So this is a frit size 1, I think. Frit comes in frit size 0 up into frit size 4. Frit size 4 would be like an aquarium gravel size, so like a little pebble size. So that would leave you with like a bigger speckle. This is a size 1, and it's more like a coarse sea salt. The frit size 0 is like a little bit closer to a powder. So like this, these little blue speckles, they might be a size 2 frit or size 1. Then we have stringers, which she has a little bit of a pink stringer on some of these flowers. So like a spaghetti, like a dry spaghetti. So like we would call this like a stringer, so you can get like a really fine line for something. There's cane. If you've watched Blown Away, you might be familiar with cane, where you have rods or stripes of glass that you can twist and use that for patterning. Marini, which would leave like, which is like the cane but has like complex patterns in the middle that when you chop it in the dissection, you can get different patterns. What else? Bars of color. So the color also comes in concentrated bar form. And for the color that she used, that metallic blue that she picked up right before we started the demo, that would have been a bar color. So she picked up a chunk or a bar of color. So it's all glass that we use to make the different things, but the glass has different properties. So it comes in a wide variety of different ways to use it. Yeah. Yeah, when we gather over the bar color, how do we get it evenly distributed? She picked it up. Did you pick it up right on the pipe, the color? So she picked it right up on the pipe and she heated it like till it was all molten. So if you don't heat it evenly, you're not going to get even bubble. Then she started a small bubble in it. So it's all about just heating it evenly, making sure that first bubble goes in evenly. There's another way to do it where she would have gathered a clear bubble, a small clear bit of glass, started a little golf ball sized bubble in it. Then someone would have heated up the color, brought it over in a blob and dropped it over the top and pushed it over the sides to create like an even, that's called a color overlay. Again, there's multiple ways to do one thing. So Helen just picked it up on the pipe and heated it evenly and started bubbling evenly, and that makes it nice and even. But if you don't do things evenly, that's when you get the unevenness. So let's say like she didn't heat that blob of color evenly. There was a cold spot. There would have been a thicker part of the color, and the rest of it would have blown out a little thinner. Yep. So it's all just doing it the right way, taking your time, making sure everything's hot and even. Yeah. So this will be sold. This will come out of the annealing oven. We'll take some pictures of it and we'll post it for sale sometime next week. The piece I made last week just went in the shops today. So that is available for purchase. The piece from the very first Bring the Heat, 3 weeks ago, that Chris Rochelle made, sold. It's already gone. Someone that was here watching the demonstration had to have it, and it's theirs. So that one is gone. Yes? Yeah, so to see the final product, so it's going to be in several different places. So it's going to be on Instagram and Facebook. Connor and Emily will make sure that gets on. They'll do like a reel and then post a picture of the final thing. Then the shops will come in and they'll take a picture of it and they'll put it in the listing to be sold. It'll be on YouTube. So we are also live streaming on YouTube right now. So that will be forever. That recording will be on the web forever. So you'll be able to see it there. And at the end of that YouTube will be a picture of the piece. So it's going to be posted in a lot of different places, but you could always just search Bring the Heat in the shops or on our website, and they should pop up there. How long does it have to cool before it reaches its true final color? So the cooling cycle for this piece is probably going to be 16 hours, maybe. So in the next day or two, we should be able to see the color. I'm going to check with Helen, but she made a piece earlier this week. Right now she's adding a couple leaves. So not only does she have those beautiful cherry blossoms, but she's got some green leaves as well. So I'm going to show you some of the color samples and some of the vases she made for practice. So when we're making something like this, sometimes it's nice. I'm going to put them on the marver here. Sometimes it's nice to have do color samples because sometimes we might not always know. That's like a dark pigeon blue, a nice light opaque blue. And then this is the metallic blue that she's using today. So you can see the beautiful, brilliant blue color. Right now it looks very green. It looks like dark forest green, but it is a very beautiful blue, transparent blue. Yes, so if you fall in love with this, check out the shops on our website. Follow on Instagram and Facebook. And probably by next Thursday it should be online, it should be available. Yeah. So this is a very fun program for not only the gaffers involved here for our shops, but the shops as well. So it's always fun to collaborate with the shops and to be able to have these pieces available for purchase. Because like I said, people come to the museum and they can purchase the made line, and they can purchase glass from all over the world, and they can purchase glass from local artists. But sometimes it's nice to find something that you saw made, or that you have a video of that you can watch, and you know how it was made, and you get to know the artist a little bit. So this is a really fun collaborative effort between our programs and the shops, and the sale and the money from this piece being sold will benefit our programming here at the Hot Glass Museum. Yeah. So the flowers right now are just on a hot plate. So like a little cooking hot plate, and then there's a piece of graphite on it. Yeah, so just any hot plate that you could use, turn it to high, put a graphite sheet on it. Declan's also adding a little bit of extra heat with that propane torch, just kind of lightly hitting it with that fluffy torch, keeping those thin petals nice and warm. They don't need to really be in an oven. They don't, like if the glass was any thicker, like I said, these flowers are paper thin. If they were any thicker, we'd have to keep them much hotter. We'd have to go into the 2100 degree heat and keep them really warm so they didn't crack or break. But because these are paper thin, that graphite paddle on the hot plate and this fluffy torch is just enough. Yep. So she did make a lot of flowers. I don't know if she's going to use all of these flowers. This is like a sketch, and like you can draw it out and you can plan it, but the best way to do it is as you're making it, kind of coming up with the design and working on it in the moment. So she probably made more than she will need, just so she has enough. And then there's always room for, accidents. If one slips out of the tweezers, or if she squeezes it a little too hard and it cracks and breaks, then she has extras. But she just said to Katie, "What do you think?" So they're looking and seeing if maybe any space needs to be filled, looking at the composition. Quick reheat. But I think they might be pretty close to being finished. She also made a few that aren't blossomed yet. Looks like just like the beginnings before it opens up. So she's going to place a few of those on there. But you can see this is a really beautiful camera shot that Dan's got here. Nice close-up shot. You can see the detail, the stringers in those flowers, the variation of color. So it's got that beautiful white color with the pink powder over top, and some of those pink stringers as well. But a gorgeous piece. And it's so hard, like looking at it today and not knowing the true color, but because she made that piece earlier this week, we have a good idea of what that beautiful metallic blue will look like. Because glass does look very hot, different when it's hot. So you can see they are soft and hot still. She can kind of still push those around a little bit. How are we doing on questions? Good? Yeah. How long did it take her to make the flowers? She probably spent a couple of hours pushing the powder around. And then once she got the powder right where she wanted it, I don't know what her fusing, probably an hour or two in the oven to fuse them together, melt it together. I know she put them in the oven and then she came running in because she was so excited to see what they had looked like. Because glass, as you heat it up, it kind of shrinks a little bit, so you don't ever really, unless you've done it before, you don't ever really know what you're going to get. So she opened the oven and was very happy with what she saw. But this is fun. We host a lot of visiting artists, and so for weeks at a time, our gaffers and our team will work hard bringing someone else's designs to life and making their pieces for the week. So this is so exciting for us as glassmakers here at the museum to be able to work on something and prep it for the week leading up to it and really make some really beautiful work and maybe some new work that we hadn't tried before, or just getting a little more time to work on something of our own design. So we feel very fortunate to be a part of this program. And then bonus, the museum gets to offer it for sale, so that's exciting as well. Because it's hard as independent artists working here for the museum. If we wanted to have products like this in the shops for sale, we would have to do that on our own time. So like when we finished our day here at 5 o'clock, we could rent the studio, the shop over at the studio. We could rent that time to make work to sell in the shops or in different galleries. And so when you're working full time, that sometimes can be a little tricky because, work-life balance. And so being able to still do a little bit of this sort of research and development in our day here is exciting because we get to, work on a new product line or work on a new piece, see if it'll sell, and then go to the shops or go to the studio and rent the time and pay the assistants to make the work to sell for the shops. So it allows us to still be gaffers here for the museum, but still kind of have a little time to explore and do some research and development. How do we know when it's time to return for a flash? We sort of have this internal timer. It's all experience-based. We know what the glass starts to look like when it starts to become cold or when it's been out of the oven. We also know that there is a little bit of a timing, and unfortunately the way we know is because we stayed out of the oven for 1 or 2 seconds too long. When in the oven, the whole thing cracked and broke in the oven. Or it cracked out here in the room temperature for staying out too long. And so unfortunately we know all this because we've seen it happen, and it's was very devastating the first year or two. It would break everything we made or in some way or another. So it's sort of this like internal timer where you're like, okay, well, I've been out of the oven for too long. I need to go in there for a flash. But also we can see it. There it is, like a nice look at the beautiful vase with the beautiful cherry blossoms. It's a feeling and a look. So you can look at it and say, okay, that looks cold. Or you can say, I've been out of the oven for way too long. I need to get in the oven. But yeah, no instrument, no thermometers, no, just a feeling and a feel. Yep. All right, Declan's suited up in the silver suit. They have a set of Kevlar gloves on. Helen's going to drip a little bit of water on that punty connection. And with the lightest tap, this will break free. She'll soften the sharp edge with a hot torch. This will soften the sharp edge and hopefully allow us not to have to do any cold working or grinding or polishing. So just softening that sharp edge. And then into the slow cooling oven where this will stay. This is the hardest part, where it will stay for the next 16 to 24 hours. Helen Tegeler, everyone. A beautiful piece. Katie Hubbs, Declan McInerney, Emily, Dan, Connor, the whole team. And thank you for tuning in and coming here to the museum to check out our demonstrations. And we hope to see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your visit. Your tickets are good for 2 days, so if you're still around, we're open for another 45 minutes, it looks like. The shops will be open a little longer. So enjoy the rest of your visit, and thanks for coming.